So here's a quick video on cutting some trackwall systems like Gladiator, GearTrack, and Craftsman VersaTrack. I'm gonna cut some scrap trackwall in different ways, both manually with a handsaw and then with some power tools. You're gonna be able to see the results and decide how you wanna cut your tracks. Now, I'm using scrap pieces of GearTrack for this video, but Craftsman VersaTrack is similar in material composition, so I think my demonstration will apply well to both products. Now, first things first, it's important to note that Gladiator Garage Works recommends against installing track sections less than 24 inches in length in their instructions. Now, I could not find any such recommendation on Craftsman VersaTrack. However, I think you're fine as long as you can anchor your track to the studs on at least two sides when installing on wood framing. So if your walls are framed 16 inches on center, then I'd go no less than 16 inches. I've personally installed some sections of GearTrack that were smaller than the manufacturer's guidelines, and it's not been an issue for me at all. I would do the same with VersaTrack without any hesitation. Now, the first issue with these track wall systems is that unlike wood, they are hard to mark with pencil. So I like to just put a piece of masking or painter's tape on them and then mark that for my cut line. If you don't have power tools, then you can cut your track with a handsaw. I found it better to cut from front side to back side after I tried it both ways on some scrap GearTrack. If you cut from back to front, you get some undesirable rough edges in the front facing portion. Now, the cuts are gonna be pretty rough either way. So you could sandpaper these rough spots down or put on some end caps or place them against the wall if you are concerned about the track's appearance. Now, if you have power tools, then I recommend that you cut these tracks with a circular saw or a miter saw instead of a handsaw because the cuts are going to be much, much cleaner. The concern I often see from other people is that these plasticky composite tracks might melt due to the heat when cutting. Some people suggest that you might even need a special anti-melt blade for plastic or laminate. Now, these tracks are most similar to things like PVC boards in their composition. And PVC board manufacturer guidance for cutting is to use a sharp carbide tip blade. So I think that's a good way to go for these plastic track walls as well. So I use a circular saw with a carbide tip fast framing blade to cut some scrapped GearTrack I had on hand, in combination with a speed square to keep my cut straight. First I cut it fast and then again slowly. Both times it cut fine with no melting, the cut was not too rough, and it could quickly be cleaned up by sandpaper if so desired. Alternatively, you could put the cut end against the wall or use the plastic end caps to easily hide any imperfections, as I mentioned before. Now, just to see what would happen with a fine-tooth carbide tip finishing blade, I set up my miter saw and I tried that fast and slow as well. Again, no melting. And even better, the finer tooth blade gave me a really smooth cut. So if you're not using end caps or placing the cut portion against the wall, then a finer tooth blade on a circular saw or a miter saw will leave you with the cleanest cut and least sanding. Now, just to see if I could melt the track, I held the track against the blade for a bit, and I wasn't able to melt or deform it. I think if you were gonna melt the track with any power tool blade, you're really gonna need to work at it, or start with a very dull steel blade. So there's your options for cutting track. And I don't think you need a special blade or have to worry about melting the track. If this video was helpful, give me a like down below. Also, check out my other videos on installing trackwall in your home. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your project.